Nobody expected this. Not the fans, not the critics, not even the people inside the industry who thought they had already seen everything Kanye could possibly do. But what just happened with Kanye's new album has left the entire music world shaken, confused, and honestly, a little scared. We're not talking about a normal album rollout. This wasn't just music dropping at midnight with a few tweets and some promo clips. No, this felt different. Quiet at first, almost too quiet. And then suddenly, boom! Snippets started leaking, private listening sessions were whispered about, and insiders began saying the same exact thing. This isn't just an album. This is something else. And here's where it gets crazy. People who were actually in those rooms are now speaking out, and their reactions are all over the place. Some are calling it genius, like saying Kanye just changed the direction of music again. But others? They're saying this project crossed lines nobody in the industry was ready for. One insider even said, "I've never seen executives this uncomfortable before, not even during the biggest controversies." Fans are shocked. Social media is divided. And the artists? That's where things get even more intense. Because rumors are spreading that certain big names heard the album early and immediately started delaying their own releases. Why? What exactly did Kanye put on this project that has people second-guessing everything? Behind the scenes, emotions ran high. There are whispers of heated arguments, label panic, and even personal fallout between people close to Kanye. Some are saying this album isn't just music, it's a message. Others are saying it's a warning. So what did Kanye actually do this time? Why are industry executives scrambling, artists going silent, and fans arguing like never before? Stay with me, because this story only gets deeper from here. The tension didn't begin when the album dropped. It started weeks before anyone even heard a full track. According to multiple insiders, Kanye had been moving in complete silence, cutting off the usual promotional channels and keeping even his closest collaborators in the dark. There were no official announcements, no clear timelines, just scattered rumors that he was working on something different. At first, people brushed it off as another unpredictable rollout. But behind the scenes, those who were invited into private sessions quickly realized this was not business as usual. One producer who allegedly attended an early listening session described the atmosphere as uncomfortable but impossible to ignore. The room was dim, phones were reportedly taken away, and Kanye stood quietly while the music played. "Nobody spoke at first," the insider said. "We were just trying to process what we were hearing." According to that source, the album wasn't just sonically different. It carried a tone that felt confrontational. Almost like Kanye was speaking directly to specific people in the industry without naming them. That's when the first wave of tension started building. As word spread quietly among executives and artists, reactions began to split almost instantly. Some were calling it genius, claiming Kanye had once again found a way to push boundaries no one else could even reach. But others were far more cautious. "This isn't just experimental," one label insider reportedly said. "This feels like he's challenging the system itself." That idea alone was enough to make people uneasy. Because in an industry built on structure, control, and timing, anything that disrupts that balance can create real consequences. Behind closed doors, emergency conversations allegedly started happening. Executives were calling meetings, discussing what this release could mean not just for Kanye, but for everyone else planning to drop music around the same time. There was real concern, one source claimed. Not about competition, but about impact. And that word kept coming up again and again. Impact. It wasn't about charts or streams. It was about how this album might shift the entire conversation. Meanwhile, Kanye himself remained distant and almost detached from the reactions forming around him. People who tried to reach him reportedly got very little in return. Short responses, vague statements, or sometimes nothing at all. It was like he already knew what was coming, one insider said. like he had accepted whatever reaction this was going to create. That calmness only made others more nervous. Then came the moment that really started to shake things. A second, more exclusive listening session reportedly took place, this time with a mix of artists, executives, and a few unexpected guests. And according to those who were there, the energy in that room shifted dramatically compared to the first. Where there had once been confusion, now there was visible tension. Some attendees were said to have exchanged looks, others reportedly left early, and then a few stayed behind in silence long after the music stopped. One artist who allegedly attended described a brief exchange that stuck with them. After the final track played, someone in the room quietly asked, "Are you sure you want to release this?" And Kanye, without hesitation, reportedly responded, "It's already out. They just haven't heard it yet." That response left the room even more unsettled. It wasn't just confidence. It felt like a statement of intent. As leaks about these sessions began circulating online, fans started picking up on the energy shift. Social media filled with speculation. Some believed Kanye was about to drop his most honest project yet. Others worried that whatever he was planning might be too much, even for an artist known for pushing limits. Fans are shocked, trying to separate rumors from reality. But the uncertainty only adds to the intrigue. At the same time, other artists began moving differently. Release dates were quietly adjusted, announcements delayed, and in some cases, projects that had been heavily promoted suddenly went silent. Officially, no one linked these changes to Kanye. But behind the scenes, insiders suggested otherwise. "People are watching," one source said. "They're waiting to see what happens before making their next move." And as all of this unfolded, one thing became clear. This wasn't just another album rollout. It was building into something much bigger, something that had the entire industry on edge without fully understanding why. The music hadn't even officially dropped yet, but the reactions, the tension, and the quiet panic were already spreading. Because whatever Kanye created, it wasn't just being heard. It was being felt. And that feeling? It was making people uncomfortable in a way they couldn't easily explain. As the whispers turned into louder conversations, the pressure around Kanye's project began spreading far beyond those private rooms. What was once a contained reaction among a few insiders quickly became an industry-wide tension that nobody could ignore. Executives who had initially stayed quiet were now reportedly reaching out to each other, trying to understand what exactly they were dealing with. "It's not just the music," one insider explained. "It's what the music is doing to people." At the center of this growing storm was a rumor that refused to go away, that Kanye's album wasn't just creative, it was strategic. Some believed he had carefully designed it to disrupt release cycles, and challenge label control, and expose behind-the-scenes realities that most artists never speak on publicly. That idea alone was enough to make certain people uneasy. Because if true, this wasn't just art, it was a move. Meanwhile, artists who had initially brushed off the situation began reacting in subtle but noticeable ways. A major rapper who was expected to drop within the same window suddenly postponed his release without explanation. Another artist removed all promotional posts within hours of Kanye's second listening session. Fans noticed immediately. "Something feels off," one comment read. "Why is everyone moving weird all of a sudden?" That question quickly spread, adding fuel to an already growing fire. Behind closed doors, emotions ran high. Meetings that were supposed to be routine turned into tense discussions filled with uncertainty. One executive allegedly said during a call, "We don't know how to respond to something like this." And that statement alone revealed the level of discomfort spreading through the industry. Because in a business where everything is usually calculated and controlled, not knowing how to react can be more dangerous than any direct threat. At the same time, people close to Kanye began hinting that the album was deeply personal, shaped by experiences that had changed his perspective in ways few understood. "He's not trying to fit in anymore," one source shared. "He's trying to say something that can't be ignored." That intention, however, came with consequences. Because the more personal the message became, the more it risked touching on sensitive areas that others would rather keep hidden. Then came another twist that intensified everything. A short clip, allegedly from the album, leaked online. It wasn't a full track, but it was enough to spark immediate reactions. The tone was raw, the message felt direct, and the delivery carried a level of intensity that caught listeners off guard. Within minutes, social media exploded. Fans are shocked. Some praised the boldness, calling it fearless and necessary. Others felt uneasy, questioning whether this was going too far. But what truly escalated the situation was the speculation surrounding who or what the message was aimed at. People began analyzing every word, every tone, every possible reference. Names started being thrown around, theories built and shared at a speed no one could control. "This feels targeted," one fan posted, "like he's speaking directly to someone." And that perception only added to the tension already building behind the scenes. Inside Kanye's circle, the atmosphere reportedly became more intense as well. Some collaborators were fully supportive, believing this project could redefine how artists express themselves. Others were more cautious, worried about the potential backlash and how it might affect everyone involved. There were disagreements, one insider revealed. Not everyone was comfortable with how far this was going. That internal conflict mirrored what was happening across the industry as a whole. Meanwhile, Kanye remained consistent in his approach, silent, focused, and seemingly unfazed by the reactions forming around him. Attempts to get clarification or comments reportedly went unanswered. And that silence? It only made things feel heavier. Because when someone refuses to explain themselves in the middle of growing controversy, people start filling in the gaps on their own. The industry, which once prided itself on predicting trends and controlling narratives, now found itself reacting instead of leading. And that shift created an uneasy feeling that spread through every level of the business. "We're not used to this," one source admitted. "We're used to knowing what comes next." Fans continue to debate, argue, and question everything they're hearing. Some believe Kanye is once again ahead of everyone else, pushing boundaries in a way that will eventually be understood. Others think this moment could lead to consequences that no one is prepared for. Because at this point, it's no longer just about the music itself. It's about the reaction it's creating, the tension it's exposing, and the uncertainty it's forcing people to face. And as more pieces of the story begin to surface, one thing is becoming clear. Whatever Kanye is about to release isn't just an album. It's a moment that's making the entire industry stop and reconsider everything. As the situation kept building, the tension finally reached a point where it could no longer stay hidden behind private conversations and quiet speculation. What had been whispers inside studios and boardrooms started leaking into public view, and once that happened, everything escalated fast. The industry, which had been trying to keep its composure, suddenly looked shaken. People who normally stayed silent began speaking carefully, unchoosing their words but still revealing just enough to show that something serious was unfolding. One insider described a late-night meeting between several high-level executives as pure panic disguised as strategy. According to that source, the discussion wasn't about stopping Kanye, because they knew they couldn't, but about how to respond once the album officially dropped. "We're not dealing with a normal rollout," one executive allegedly said. "We're dealing with something that could shift perception overnight." That statement alone reflected the level of concern spreading behind closed doors. At the same time, more details about the album's content began to surface. And this is where things became even more intense. People who claimed to have heard multiple tracks started hinting that Kanye wasn't just speaking in general terms. He was addressing real situations, real tensions, and possibly even real people. The lines between music and message began to blur. "It feels like a conversation we were never supposed to hear," one insider explained. And that idea made others even more uncomfortable. Meanwhile, artists across the industry continued adjusting their moves. Some went completely silent on social media. Others began posting vague messages that fans quickly interpreted as indirect reactions. One artist wrote, "Timing is everything," while another posted, "Some things change the game, whether you like it or not." Fans immediately connected these statements to Kanye's upcoming release, fueling even more speculation. Fans are shocked, and emotions ran high as discussions turned into heated debates across platforms. But behind all of this, the personal side of the situation began to emerge. Sources close to Kanye suggested that this album was shaped by experiences that had deeply affected him, both professionally and personally. "This isn't just creative energy," one person shared. "This is everything he's been holding in." That emotional weight added another layer to the story, making it feel less like a calculated move and more like an unavoidable release. However, not everyone around him was fully at ease. Some members of his extended circle reportedly expressed concern about how the message might be received. There were moments where people questioned if this was the right time, an insider revealed. Not because of the music, but because of the reaction it might create. Those concerns were met with resistance. According to reports, Kanye remained firm in his vision, making it clear that he wasn't interested in softening anything to make others comfortable. Then came another unexpected development that pushed the tension even further. A rumor began circulating that certain industry figures had privately reached out, attempting to understand or even influence aspects of the release. The details of these conversations remain unclear, but the implication alone was enough to spark reactions. "If that's true, then this is bigger than anyone thought," one fan commented. And just like that, the narrative shifted again. Inside those circles, emotions ran high. Some felt this was a moment of artistic freedom that should be respected, no matter how uncomfortable it made people. Others saw it as a potential disruption that could create lasting consequences for everyone involved. The divide became clear, not just among fans, but within the industry itself. "The room was split," one source said. "Some were inspired, others were worried." Meanwhile, Kanye continued to move in silence, offering no public clarification and no attempt to control the narrative forming around him. That silence became one of the most powerful elements of the entire situation. Because without direct answers, every rumor, every leak, and every reaction carried more weight. People weren't just listening to the music, they were trying to interpret what it meant and what it could lead to. As the expected release moment drew closer, the atmosphere felt almost electric. The anticipation wasn't built on hype alone. It was built on uncertainty. No one knew exactly what was coming, but everyone felt that it would matter. Fans are still divided, trying to decide whether this is a groundbreaking moment or something that could create lasting tension across the industry. Because now it's no longer just about creativity or competition. It's about influence, perception, and the power of one project to challenge an entire system. And with every passing moment, it feels like the industry is bracing itself for something it cannot fully control. Something that might change how everything works moving forward. And then it finally happened. The moment everyone had been waiting for, but no one was truly prepared to face. The album dropped without warning. No countdown, no official announcement. Just suddenly there. appearing across platforms like it had been placed intentionally at the exact moment people were least expecting it. Within minutes, timelines exploded. Fans rushed to listen, critics scrambled to respond, and the entire industry seemed to pause at once. It wasn't just a release, it felt like an event. From the very first track, listeners realized this wasn't something you could casually play in the background. The tone was intense, layered, and at times unsettling. Each song felt like it carried weight, like there was something deeper behind every word. Fans are shocked, and emotions ran high as people tried to process what they were hearing in real time. Some called it genius within minutes, praising the raw honesty and bold direction. Others reacted with confusion, even discomfort, or questioning what Kanye was trying to say and why he chose to say it this way. But what truly shook the industry wasn't just the sound, it was the message. As listeners began breaking down lyrics and themes, it became clear that the album was touching on topics that many had avoided for years. There were moments that felt personal, moments that felt reflective, and others that felt almost confrontational. "This doesn't feel like music," one listener posted. "It feels like a statement." And that statement? It hit harder than anyone expected. Behind the scenes, reactions were immediate. Executives who had been watching from a distance now had no choice but to respond internally. Emergency calls were reportedly made within hours of the release. "We need to understand this now," one insider claimed was said during a meeting. Because the impact wasn't just artistic, it was cultural. The album was already shifting conversations, and it had only been out for a short time. Artists, too, began reacting in ways that fans couldn't ignore. Some openly praised the project, calling it fearless and necessary. Others stayed silent, which in itself became a statement. One artist who had delayed their release earlier posted a single line, "Now you see why timing matters." That post alone sparked another wave of discussion, with fans connecting it directly to Kanye's drop. Inside Kanye's circle, the reactions were just as intense. Some collaborators reportedly felt proud, believing they had been part of something historic. Others were more uncertain, aware that the album's impact could come with consequences. "The room was split," one insider said. "Some were celebrating, others were just watching, trying to see what happens next." The family was left divided in a sense, not by conflict, but by the weight of what had just been released into the world. And Kanye himself? According to those close to him, he remained calm, almost detached from the chaos unfolding around him. While the world reacted, he reportedly stayed focused, as if this outcome had always been part of the plan. "He expected this," one source said. Maybe not every reaction, but the intensity of it, he knew it would happen. As hours turned into days, the conversation only grew louder. Fans continued debating, breaking down every detail, every line, every possible meaning. Some believe this album will redefine the direction of music, pushing artists to be more open, more direct, more fearless. Others think it may create tension that could take years to settle. Because what Kanye released wasn't just music. It was something that forced people to react, to think, and in some cases, to feel uncomfortable. And in an industry built on control and predictability, that kind of impact can be unsettling. Now the entire industry is watching closely, waiting to see what happens next. Will this moment lead to change? Or will it create divisions that run even deeper? One thing is certain, nothing feels the same anymore. And now it's your turn to speak on this. Because what just happened doesn't come around often, and the conversation is only getting louder. You've seen how this unfolded, from the quiet buildup to the moment the album dropped and shook everything. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the entire industry seems like it's still trying to catch its breath. So what do you think this really means? Did Kanye just change the game again and push music into a new direction? Or did he cross a line that's going to create serious consequences moving forward? And be honest, when you first heard those tracks, did it feel like music? Or did it feel like something deeper? I want you to go down in the comments right now and let me know your real opinion, because this is one of those moments where everybody sees it differently. Some people are calling it genius, others are calling it too much, and your take matters in this debate. If you're rocking with content like this and want more real mixed stories that keep it raw, dramatic, and impossible to ignore, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust me, this story isn't finished, and what happens next might be even bigger.